If you don't know how to get into a high frequency state, your entire life's going to be difficult. This is something I've tapped into more recently this year. I was always a productive guy. I've accomplished a lot in my life so far. I'm 34 years old. But this year, really diving deeper into high frequency states on a daily basis has really transformed my productivity, my outlook on life, and everything inside of my business and social life, and even my internal confidence. So watch this video in full. There's a lot of good things in here. I want to discuss with you guys low frequencies versus high frequency states, understanding the difference, and then also how anybody that's watching this video could start to get into high frequency states on a daily basis using a couple simple techniques. So I want to start off with the first point, which takes me back to me earlier in my journey. I told you guys I'm 34 years old, but I grew up very shy, very antisocial. I was obsessed with video games, smoking weed, and just staying home in my bubble, staying home in my comfort zone. And that's because my dad died at a young age. And I think because of that, I kind of just closed off from the world. And so I got very comfy with the idea of playing video games and building up video game characters. And because of this, I was not really open to going out into the world and doing much of anything. I was honestly subconsciously scared, probably because I had that loss at a young age of my father figure. And so I grew up through my teenage years and even going into my 20s, not really doing much. Honestly, no success with women, didn't have much friends outside of video game world. And so I kind of developed this foundation of a dude who was in low frequency states. In fact, the first friends that I started hanging out with, it's just because they got me into smoking weed, which was even more of an escape for me. And so going into college, still very antisocial, still just smoking weed on a daily basis, would wake up, hit the bong, go to my pizza delivery job, rip the bowl there, commute to college, keep my head down in the back of class, not talk to anybody, and then drive home at the end of the day, and go back, and that cycle would continuously repeat. Eventually, I started getting into the gym though at one point. That was one thing I did do. And the gym's great because it started to push me physically, but honestly, it didn't change too much in my life. It just kind of got me doing this one physical activity. I would still smoke a lot of weed. I would still pig the fuck out. I was still getting drunk on the weekends. I started to make more friends in my 20s, but I was still operating in very low frequency states. I was operating out of scarcity. I was dependent on substances. I was lazy. I didn't put in work at college. I didn't want to build a side hustle. I lived up in my mom's basement throughout my entire 20s. And so it really took me a long time to get out of low frequencies. You don't need to be a pothead to be in low frequency, but I definitely had a scarcity mindset, and I was very dependent on drugs, substances, porn, video games, TV, movies, wasting time bullshitting with friends. I was very dependent on all of these things to occupy my entire schedule. I never really wanted to do things that were challenging, whether that's socially or physically or mentally that could lead to financials. I was not seeking growth by any means. So not only was I in a scarcity mindset, my first girl left me for another dude early on in my 20s when I was about 23, 24. And then I really didn't know what the fuck to do. I was in a very low depressive state, which resulted in me spiraling down even further, just smoking more weed. Now I wasn't going out of the house at all. I was started crying every day for like over a month straight. And I slowly, over the next year, crawled my way out of that by getting into the idea of social skills, pickup and dating, and really making a decision that I wanted to double down to get out of the pain. I finally hit a low point, so I was like, I want to get out of the pain. And so what happened was, I still didn't give up on the weed, unfortunately. I was addicted to weed for a very long time, and I'll show you guys how I ultimately climbed to very high frequencies. But it took me a long time. It doesn't need to take you anywhere near that much time. And I'm gonna explain that in step 3 of this video, how anybody could do this on a daily basis, right? But I started to go harder with my self-development and my social skills and my social confidence in my 20s because I was just heartbroken and I had no success with women growing up. And once I developed, you could actually go out and push yourself socially and work on your communication skills. To me, that was incredible. I was like, what? I thought I was always gonna have to be this shy video game loser. And so I started diving more into pushing my comfort zone socially. And over time, it was a very slow start with me. I watched a bunch of videos. I was afraid to even go out and practice it. And eventually, over time, I started to make a little bit of progress. I kept watching the videos. I kept pushing myself. I took some baby steps here and there. And eventually, I started making progress with that. And as I kept going with that, I felt more inspired and motivated to kind of pull back on the drugs and the alcohol, because I noticed, hey, when I'm out socializing, I would push my comfort zone over an extended period of time in like a day or a night out, and I would get into a social flow. I would get into a flow state, a higher frequency social flow. And I would start to feel really good. I felt like I could talk to more people. I felt like my confidence was higher. I felt like I communicated differently. I walked and acted slightly differently. And because of that, I realized that when I smoked weed, it was very hard for me to be social. And then I also noticed that when I got blacked out drunk, I wouldn't be able to push myself in a challenging way. I wouldn't be able to remember the night. I wouldn't really grow from the experiences. So over the next couple of years, and this happened very slowly for me, I didn't have any guidance on this. Nobody taught me any of this stuff. I was blindly doing this thing as I slowly had more of a desire to get better with it. But what I did notice is that by my late 20s, I was really pulling back on the weed and the alcohol. And unconsciously, what it was I was really into the idea of being in these high frequency states, from being in social flows and feeling better when I was off of those things. I would still periodically do them due to external environmental factors like pothead friends that I would be out with over the night, or just bad mindsets and not really understanding this shit. But lo and behold, by the time I was 30, I became really passionate about social dynamics and stuff. And so I actually started a brand, started a business, started coaching other dudes and putting out value into the world. Because I noticed that when I was helping other people, I was also raising my frequency. I would help dudes on a night out. I would get on coaching calls and my frequency would be so high because I was pushing the value out into helping the world and talking about my own experiences and how other men could overcome those things. So what I had unconsciously realized was that when I laid off of the drugs and the alcohol, and when I pushed myself socially or physically in the gym, I started doing Muay Thai. I was also hitting the gym pretty hard around 30, 31. And when I noticed that when I pushed my comfort zone to, in one extent or another, whether that was physically or mentally or even financially within my own business, putting out value on coaching calls, those things were boosting my frequencies. Those things were putting me into higher and higher frequency states. And I became less dependent on the drugs because I realized that those things were actually pulling me back down. And that's what happens with most people. They'll do one or two things that starts boosting the frequency, but then they have these bad tendencies, they have this self-sabotage, they have this dependency on these substances, and it pulls them back down, or they start to have success in one area of their life, but they don't really have an abundant mentality, they have a scarcity mentality, and so they go back into self-sabotage. And these loops can perpetually keep you in these up and down cycles. You ever been like yo-yo dieting, or have you ever been make like 2 steps forward, but then 3 steps back in some kind of area of your life, dude? That's why. That's why we got these like fucked up cyclical mindsets and self-sabotage in there. So now we're starting to get an understanding of what are the low frequencies and how we start to move into the high frequencies. Because essentially it's the abundant mindset. It's removing all the vices. It's putting in the hard work, either in the gym, in your business, putting out the content. For me, that's what puts me in a high frequency state. It's pushing myself socially. It's really grinding through a hard physical workout, or it's locking in on some kind of task in my business where I can provide value or get money somehow from all of it while helping people. Locking in for like long periods of time, right? If I could boil it down to one thing, since we're talking about the low versus highs, and I'm gonna get into my routine in just a second, so I can show you guys how you can get into those high frequency states on a daily basis. If I had to boil it down to any one thing, it's doing an uncomfortable task mentally or physically for an extended period of time. Like a challenging, uncomfortable task that will lead to growth. Because when I hit the gym hard, I don't care what kind of state you're in right now, dude. If you go and fucking blast it in the gym for an hour, hour and a half, you're gonna be in a higher frequency state. If I threw you into 10 interactions, I pushed you into uncomfortable social interactions over and over and over again, you would start to get into a little bit more of a social flow state, especially if you have like social anxiety around that stuff. For me, I get into flow states when I'm running calls, coaching calls, filming content like this, talking on camera for an extended period of time. That gets me into a flow state. All of these things boost my frequencies. But what also needs to happen in combination with that is you need to remove the things that pull your frequency back down. Bad food. Bro, your whole frequency, your whole state could crash if you just ate a 2,000 calorie greasy ass fucking Chinese food, greasy bacon burger bullshit, like McDonald's bullshit. That stuff will crash your frequency almost instantaneously, man. So it's removing the bad shit, because I don't care how high I'm vibrating. If I get wasted and smoke a blunt, frequency's back down. Frequency's back down. You go to sleep for the night, your frequency will reset. You ever been in an amazing state? You almost don't want to go to sleep because of how good you're feeling, because you kind of almost know that when you wake up tomorrow, the state will reset. So you want to structure out your day to push yourself in a challenging manner physically and mentally, while removing the bad things that we're dependent on to feel good, because that's what's keeping you from going over the top, dude. Like, I always had a scarcity mindset and anxiety, but partially that was due to me always smoking weed. Like, weed actually created those things in my head. When I'm completely off all of that and I've just crushed a workout and I just filmed a piece of content and I just approached the hot girl that was walking down the street, bro, my thought process is completely different than when I wake up and I'm not in a good state and I got doubts, and especially if I drank the night before, or if I smoke or do any kind of drug or porn or watch TV for 3 hours and eat bad food, dude, all of those things lower your frequency. So that's how you could go from low to high, but also understand that it resets on a daily basis. And the more continuously you're in high frequency, the easier it is to keep doing that. The more you're in the low, the easier it is to stay in the low. So understand momentum is crucial with this stuff. Now let me get into the way that I do this on a daily basis and how anybody really could. As I already said, first thing, evaluate what are your vices, what are the bad things you're doing, and you gotta just cut that shit out, bro. You gotta make a decision to cut that shit out. That's another video in itself. But first and foremost, remove the bad shit, because that shit is just shackling you. And it was shackling me for a very long time. Now, aside from that though, once you actually have a clear mind state and you have some mental clarity, what I do is I wake up earlier than I ever was. So whatever time you're waking up right now, you don't need to get up at 4 a.m. like I do, but you do need to get up a little bit earlier. Like, challenge yourself slightly to just get up a little bit earlier. And that may mean that you need to prepare for bed at a good time, right? Going to sleep at a decent time, it takes preparation. That means turning off the fucking TV, turning off the video games, stop hanging out with the unproductive friends, so you can get to bed a little bit earlier, so you can wake up a little bit earlier. First thing I do is go to the gym. Wake up, I go right to the gym, because I just want to get that out the way, because that in itself boosts my frequency. Working out hard, putting in time in the gym, boosts your frequency. And it's not about how much, you don't need to have a crazy long workout, but what you do need to do is you need to hit it hard. That's what I noticed, is a hard workout and hard work in general boosts the frequency up. So that's the first thing I do, is I get in there and I get that workout in. Next thing I do is I get on camera, because for me, putting out value, talking on camera for an extended period of time boosts my frequency. I've noticed that talking and getting into a social flow boosts my frequency. And since I'm up at a very early time right now, there's nobody to really talk to. If I woke up at 8, 9, 10 after my workout, it would already be 11, 12. I could probably go for a nice little walk outside, get some sunlight, and put out some good vibes and good energy out into the world. So that might be a little bit more applicable for you guys. If you can't, I encourage everybody to get better with speaking on camera, because that one skill set can absolutely change your life. It'll boost your social confidence, it'll increase your communication, and over time you could build a business or a brand or a following and get status just from this one skill set. So I do think on a daily basis, I encourage everybody to be practicing that, especially as we move into 2025 and beyond. It just becomes more and more and more of a vital skill set. So you either start with the workout, or you start with some kind of social thing. It's physical or communicative challenge, uncomfortable thing. Me personally, after I film this, I'm gonna shower really quick. I like to take a cold shower, because what I have found is that the more uncomfortable things you can stack, typically the frequency will go higher. You don't need to do 1,000 things. I'm just showing you my routine. If you're gonna shower, you might as well make it a cold shower. It's gonna be more uncomfortable. It's gonna boost your frequency. I then have a coffee and I do a little bit of reflection after that. I analyze my previous day. Did I hit all my goals? And what are the 3 biggest things I wanna get done today? And surprise, surprise, those 3 things typically will put me into a higher frequency. I'm doing the challenging things that I know they're gonna lead to the most growth. 1 or 2 of them might have to be something I have to lock in on my business to get done. But those things still put me into a high frequency, because at the end of the day, I know I'm accomplishing my goals that are leading towards growth, and the confidence just starts going up when you're hitting the tasks for the day and you start checking off all the fucking boxes of the things you need to get done, and you're not on the drugs or the substances. Man, the self-talk starts going up, your frequency starts going up, and then the vision you have about yourself and the idea of what you think you could actually achieve goes up. The higher your frequency, the bigger and bigger your self-talk and your self-worth and what you envision for your own lifestyle is. The lower your frequency, the more depressed you are, the more dependent on substance you are, the bigger a piece of shit you feel like. Real talk. Real talk. So you need to structure out your day to have some level of physical workout, make it hard, some type of mental workout or social workout. I think personally, I encourage everybody to have some kind of social. If you could walk outside and start off by just saying good morning to 10 people. Start off by just giving out 3 compliments for the day. Start off by going up and talking to like that one attractive girl. Or if you're female, start putting good vibes and good energy out into the world. It could also be on social media. That, removing the substances, hitting the hard workout, and putting in some hard work into your business, your craft, or whatever it is, those things are going to boost your frequencies on a daily basis. And you'll see this one thing is absolutely life-changing, guys. Be aware of your frequency. Remove the bad frequencies and start putting in that tough work to crank that shit up all the way up. Because it's only 5:30 right now. I already feel my frequency going up for the day. So I'm really excited. Let's get to it.